All of life is a coming home. Salesmen, secretaries, coal miners, beekeepers, sword swallowers, all of us, all of the restless hearts of the world, all trying to find a way home. It's hard to describe what I felt like then. Picture yourself walking for days in a driving snow. You don't even know you're walking in circles. The heaviness of your legs in the drifts, your shouts disappearing into the wind, how small you can feel, how far away home can be. Home. The dictionary defines home as both a place of origin and a goal or destination. And the storm? It was all in my mind. Or as the poet Dante put it, in the middle of the journey of my life, I found myself in a dark wood, for I had lost the right path. Eventually, I would find the right path, but in the most unlikely place. Welcome to If These Trees Could Talk.
We respectfully acknowledge the Wonnarua people, the traditional custodians of the land where we are recording today, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We also acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, whose country includes the area we'll visit today. We honour their deep connection to this land, the waters and the skies, and we recognise the strength, care and resilience embedded in First Nations cultures. As we share stories about connection, compassion and the search for a place where people feel safe and seen, we acknowledge that these values, the importance of community, of being present for one another, have long been central to the wisdom of Indigenous communities. We are grateful for the opportunity to hold these conversations here, and we commit to listening, learning and walking together in respect and care.
Sometimes it's the neighbour across the road who notices, who says hello, and who offers a cup of tea. Keeping me safe is not your responsibility, it's mine. He believed in the power of one ordinary person doing something ordinary that could create extraordinary change. He is the perfect example that suicide prevention is not about grand gestures. It's about small acts of compassion and human connection and choosing not to look away. Before we begin today's episode, I want to let you know that we'll be openly talking about suicide, mental health, and lived experience of suicidal thoughts. These are heavy topics, and I know that they can be difficult to hear. Please take care of yourself as you listen. If at any point you feel like you might need to stop, pause, or come back later, that's completely okay. If you're in Australia and need support, you can call Lifeline on 13 11 14. I've also added a list of helpful services in the show notes. If you are listening from overseas, please reach out to local crisis support services in your area if required. Did you do your homework today, Megan?
I did half of it. I'm so sorry. And I would like to blame it on being too busy, but I was just being too fun this weekend. I'm so sorry.
I really love fun, Megan. I'm not angry
Why
at
didn't
you.
Remind me last night we were out together.
Because you were having fun, Megan.
I was having much fun. I'm really sorry.
I said, I'm going home, and you're like, I don't want to go home. I'm having such a good time. And I was like,
good time.
Yeah.
She's
lost.
I was not coming home to watch Patch Adams. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I did do half of it early in the week. Got a bit heavy for the family and I thought I'll finish this later and I didn't come back to it. I'm so sorry. I am the worst at homework.
You are going to be so sad when you finish it and realise that it's all lovely.
Is it?
Yeah. Megan sent me a message when she started it, when I set the homework, and she said, I'm 2 minutes in, this isn't going to have a happy ending, is it? It does. Yes.
Okay.
It does have a very lovely happy ending. You
I'll
will
watch
like
it
this
tonight.
story, I promise. But it is my favourite movie and it is going to play a role in today's story, but it's not where we're going to start. We're going to go to Sydney first, to Watson's Bay, which is one of Sydney's true gems, a harbourside village that blends natural beauty with a touch of old world charm. Just a short ferry ride from Circular Quay, it sits on the tip of South Head Peninsula, where Sydney Harbour meets the vast Pacific Ocean. The views here are spectacular. On one side, the iconic skyline of Sydney sprawls across the water, and on the other, sheer sandstone cliffs rise dramatically above the sea, carved by wind and waves over thousands of years. Visitors flock to Watson's Bay for its relaxed atmosphere and postcard-perfect scenery. Families spread out on the grassy foreshore of Robertson Park, while swimmers and sunseekers enjoy the calm, sandy stretch of Watson's Bay Beach. The South Head Heritage Trail offers an easy coastal walk with sweeping panoramas and a glimpse of the historic Hornby Lighthouse, painted bold red and white stripes. Food is part of the drawcard here too. Doyle's on the Beach, which is one of Australia's most famous seafood restaurants, serving fish and chips right by the water. Whether it's watching the sunset over the harbour or wandering through the charming village streets, Watson's Bay is the kind of place that feels both quintessentially Sydney and worlds away from the bustling city. But today's episode is not a travel story. You probably would have guessed by the trigger warning and by me making you watch Patch Adams. Like many beautiful places, Watson's Bay also carries another story, one that doesn't make it into the brochures. Just beyond the harbour waters and the picnic rugs in Robinson's Park lies the Gap, a sandstone cliff face that drops sharply into the Pacific Ocean. Tourists often come here for the sweeping ocean views, but for generations, the Gap has also been known as one of Australia's most notorious suicide locations. That contrast, a place of leisure and beauty and family memories, existing side by side with grief, silence and loss, mirrors something deeper about the reality of suicide itself. For those who live with thoughts of ending their life, the world doesn't stop being colourful and full of joy for others. They continue existing in their pain, often in parallel to people laughing and enjoying the beach and seafood by the bay, or snapping photos of the lighthouse or scenery. Watson's Bay becomes a metaphor, a reminder that beneath the beauty of life there can be hidden struggles unseen by those passing by. And the reality is that suicide touches far more lives than most of us realise. In Australia, more than 3,000 people die by suicide each year. That's an average of around 9 people every single day. Those 9 fatalities are collectively part of 150 attempts in one day, every single day in this country. 150 people decide that they would be better off not here. Suicide is the leading cause of death for Australians aged 15 to 44, cutting lives short in the very years when people are often building families, careers and futures. For every life lost, countless loved ones are left grappling with the ripples of grief. Today, which is September 10th, is World Suicide Prevention Day, a moment to shine a light into places often kept in the shadows, to start conversations and to remember that behind every statistic is a person with gifts, potential and a story that matters. It's a day that reminds us that compassion, connection and even the smallest gestures of kindness can truly save lives. So this week we're going to do something a little bit different and our episode will come out on Wednesday instead of Sunday. So if you are a Sunday listener and you're joining us now, hi, thanks for being here and we are talking about Wednesday just gone. If you are listening on the Wednesday, thanks for popping in early and sharing today with us. This is obviously a cause that's extremely close to my own heart, given that I have lived experience of suicide. And for you, Megan?
I have been in situations where loved ones have felt that they didn't want to go on anymore, and I think often supporting people in that place is harder than dealing with your own mental health sometimes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we just want to acknowledge all of the people who have been in a place where they've struggled with their own mental health, and also the people who support people who struggle with mental health, because none of it's easy. And I'm grateful that there is a day where we can really kind of just hone in and focus on this, because it is the leading cause of death in our country. But in the lead up to this week, I've had a pretty remarkable opportunity. I've been doing some training with a suicide prevention organisation. It was an extraordinary experience. I met the most incredible people and had a chance to kind of reflect on my own journey and put that in a way that I can present to other people. I know that we've done a previous episode.
If you're having trouble finding it, it is called When You Can't See the Forest Through the Trees.
Trees, yep. Part of this workshop was about forgiving your first draft. The little thing that they had on the screen was you have to learn to forgive the horrors of your first draft when you're sharing your stories. And while I'm really proud of what we made that day, and we all had so much amazing feedback from people who listened and people who reached out and said, thank you. I'm so glad that you talked about this. I think given the opportunity, I've had 12 months now to learn and grow, and our theme is when you know better, you do better. I think there's just some stuff in there around language that I would change, but doing that episode was amazing, and the people that we got to connect with through it was amazing. So I decided that I was going to mark World Suicide Prevention Day with another episode. And for the people who listened last time, I hope that this one brings you some hope, and I think you're really going to like it.
Do you?
I do.
Okay. Well, with that introduction, I doubt it, but I'm excited about finding where this is going to go.
There's a lot of hope in today's episode, and if you had done your homework, you would have got a lot more out of it.
Snap. I'm so sorry. Watching you talk about this, and you've sent me some unpublished TED Talks that
we use the TED Talk term loosely, Megan.
Your ability to talk about this, I think, has come from a very long journey of all of the hard work that you have done.
Mm-hmm.
And from the outside, you make this conversation easy, but it's not. For most people, it is not easy to have this conversation. And I think you putting out into the world your thoughts and your advice, and it's not just on this platform. I know that you're part of another podcast, the Super Feelers podcast.
Yes.
Which talks about BPD.
Yep, mental health, all of the tools and strategies.
That's right.
You meet some amazing characters on there as well who are also sharing their stories.
And someone without BPD like myself gets so much out of that. I think what I'm trying to say here is, on behalf of the world, thank you for doing this. And these are the messages that we got from that other episode. People in every single context is so different, but people saying, oh, you've given me permission to forgive myself for all of the things that I've done or I have witnessed or I felt were my fault. And I think having these conversations is so important, and because we have them often, I feel like everyone's having them, but they're not. We need to be able to talk about it freely like this, and I want to thank you.
Yeah, I exist in an unusual parallel because I do have these amazing communities, like I mentioned, the people from the workshop who were just so inspiring, and I get to work with the Super Feelers team on a regular basis who I love these guys more than life itself, So I have this world where mental health and suicide prevention is so open and accessible as a conversation topic, and we just do it very naturally. It's nothing to drop in with one of these guys and say, I've had a shit-ass week, and we talked in our previous episode about the normalization of being able to have those conversations where they're really raw and honest and people feel less alone. So I'm very lucky to have that space. But then there's the real world where I go to work and I meet people along the road, and it's not how are you? Oh, I'm having a really tough time. There are people, like even in my work situation, which is completely unrelated to podcasting, that these topics have come up with along the way, and I feel really grateful in those moments where people invite me into those conversations. I'm exceptionally grateful that I can be a safe space for those people. I kind of just hope that for the rest of the world, like that one day this conversation gets as normal as talking about what we ate for dinner last night. I think that makes the world a lot safer for people experiencing it, people living alongside of it, because it can be really, really tough and taxing.
I'm so grateful to have you. You bring that safe space and you let people be vulnerable in front of you. And I know that you're this person for so many people. And I think sometimes when I talk to you, I worry, or when I hear you've been doing hard things like this training and you're going to go into supporting people in this space a lot more, I know that you see that as an extremely valuable role and you're very good at it. But what about your own mental health when you're dealing with other people's sad stories?
The great thing is I have so many tools now. And for any of our listeners that listen to the Superfeeler podcast, there's a whole series of those tools. And
You've been practicing them
and
for
I've been
a long
practicing
time.
them. I have been.
Give yourself high fives when you open the toolbox in the moment and get out the right tool. Good
I
on
do.
you.
I do. Megan often says to me, "Are you using your tools?" And I'll be like, "Yes, I'm using my tools." So how great is that's part of our regular conversation where you can say, "Are you using the tools in your toolbox?" And I can say, "Yes, you feel confident in my safety and my capability to be able to do it." And also, if I get to the spot where I don't feel capable to do it anymore, I think there's a confidence that I would reach out and ask for help now.
Absolutely. I'm very proud of you.
Thanks.
Now let's get to the happy ending.
Okay. Well, we're going to get to the yucky bit first and then we'll get to the happy ending. But I want to share with you a story about a very, very amazing man. And to do that, we're going to head back to Watson's Bay because we are a travel podcast, Megan.
These are the places people don't want to go.
That's right. Across the road from the Gap in Watson's Bay once stood a modest, cream-coloured house with wide windows looking out over the Pacific Ocean. Inside lived a man named Don Ritchie, a former Navy seaman, an insurance salesman, and by all accounts a very gentle soul with a warm smile and a calm way about him. From his front yard, Don had what most people would describe as a $1 million view. But over the decades, he came to see more than sunsets and sea spray from his windows. He saw the people. They came, sometimes alone, sometimes quietly, often with that unmistakable heaviness about them. They would stand by the fence at the Gap, looking out at the water below, sometimes for minutes, sometimes for hours. Don recognised that stillness. He came to know instinctively what it often meant, and he made a choice that would define his life. He did not look away. Instead, Don would walk across the road. He didn't approach with authority or confrontation or even with the language of crisis. He would come softly, gently, and offer something that sounded almost absurd in such a dark moment. Would you like to come and have a cup of tea? Sometimes they said yes, sometimes they said no. But that simple gesture, that offering of human connection, was often enough to break through the silence and remind the person that they were still seen, still valued, still tethered to the world around them. Don and his wife kept their kettle ready, their lounge room open and their hearts available. Over the years, countless people who had come to the Gap ready to die instead walked back across the road with Don, sat at his kitchen table, and found, for a little while at least, a reason to keep living. The exact number of lives Don helped save will never actually be known. Some estimate it as well over 150. Others believe it could be closer to 500, but Don himself never kept a tally. He didn't want to, For him, it was never about being a hero. He often said, "You can't do much, but you can do something. Whatever you do, you mustn't judge them. I just smile and let them know that somebody cares." And in many ways, that was his quiet gift to the world. He believed in the smallness of kindness. He believed in the power of one ordinary person doing something ordinary that could create extraordinary change. For the people he saved and for the families who were able to hold their loved ones for another birthday or another Christmas, another tomorrow, Don was proof that suicide prevention isn't just the work of professionals or big campaigns. Sometimes it's the neighbour across the road who notices, who says hello, and who offers a cup of tea. When Don passed away in 2012 at the age of 85, he was remembered not just by his family and friends, but by a nation. He was awarded the Order of Australia Medal for his service to the community, but perhaps the most profound recognition came from the countless strangers whose lives had quietly been spared due to his compassion. Don's story feels like a reminder to all of us. You don't need special training or the perfect words to make a difference. Sometimes all it takes is presence, kindness, and the courage to reach out. As Don showed, something as simple as a cup of tea and the human connection it represents can save a life. I think Don's story has always resonated with me because he is the perfect example that suicide prevention is not about grand gestures. It's about small acts of compassion and human connection and choosing not to look away. And it's funny in a way because that's exactly what came to my mind earlier this week when I was doing all of my self-care practice, when you were worried about me because I was doing really, really hard things. And I sat down on my couch with a blankie and a pillow and put on Patch Adams because it is my favourite movie of all time. I've watched Patch Adams probably more times than I can count. Do you have a comfort movie? Are you a repeat watcher or are you like, I've watched it and it's done?
50 First Dates.
Oh, yeah.
We watched The Wedding Singer again with the kids the other night.
He's Just Not That Into You?
Yes, I love that
movie.
movie. Yeah. Yeah. When I was doing my HSC, it was Sliding Doors. I watched Sliding Doors every single day.
I know my daughter's was Gilmore Girls. Like any time she has a stressful time or she might even be working and she'll just have it like playing on a phone. It's that's her
escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that world of escape is a bit nice. There's another reason, and it ties into this whole kindness thing. Like, this story is right up your alley, Megan, even with my, dark side to it. The Patch Adams homework was set because there's not many times, Megan, where in life I'm more responsible than you. So we're going to run with this, all right? I'm like, let's all be kind to people and reduce shame and judgment, but I'm going to just continually shame Megan on today's episode. Did you pick up from the first half that Patch Adams is a real person?
Stop shaming me. Yes, true story.
Yes, true story. But the whole movie is not true. And I want to talk about the parts that are and the parts that aren't. There's so many parallels between the real Patch Adams and Don, and how the simplicity of their actions and the kindness that they wanted to bring to the world are the catalyst for incredible change. Just for a rundown, so the listeners who haven't done their homework, who haven't watched it yet.
You weren't given the homework. It's not your fault. Don't let us shame you.
If you haven't watched it, my suggestion is watch it. It is so good. But the real Patch Adams, who is not Robin Williams.
I got that too.
However, in my brain.
So much in the first half I watched.
When I went to the website, I was really disappointed to see he didn't look like Robin Williams. Yeah, it really messed with my head. But Hunter Patch Adams was born on May 28th, 1943. And he is an American physician, clown, and social activist, best known for his unconventional approach to medicine, combining humour, empathy, and human connection to care for patients. After struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts as a young man, Adams spent time in psychiatric care, which inspired his lifelong commitment to compassionate healthcare. He founded the Gesundheit Institute, a non-for-profit community hospital in Virginia dedicated to holistic, patient-centered care that prioritises joy, laughter, and dignity alongside medical treatment. Now, I didn't know this the first time that I watched Patch Adams, but it was my stay in a psychiatric facility that completely changed the way that I look at all of this stuff too. Obviously, experience is part of that, and it absolutely would have been for him as well. I understood how important human connection was. I think prior to that, and I'd always had mental health issues all through my life, but it was all about going to the doctor, going to the psychologist, going to the psychiatrist, getting treatment, doing the things. And I did a lot of that behind closed doors. Whereas after my suicide attempt, all of the doors were open up for me because none of that was taboo anymore. I didn't know that the first time I watched this because that was well before my mental health crisis. But watching it again this week, I was just like, oh, there is so much to be learnt from connection with other people through adversity and this really incredible place where you can meet other humans when your vulnerability invites somebody else's vulnerability. And I mentioned it a little bit before, but that was the most profound thing about our previous episode because I shared a vulnerable thing myself. So many people were like, thank you, I've never talked to anyone about this, or I've gone through something similar and I didn't know who to talk to about it. There is so much power in meeting people in vulnerability. So watching it again this week was like huge for me. But there was also some other stuff because the first time I watched it, it was just new out and I've watched it several times since. Obviously, in the movie, Patch Adams is played by Robin Williams. He was the person who brought Patch Adams' life to international attention. But the real Patch Adams was quite critical of the film. He struggled with the portrayal of mental illness throughout the film. And he had a bit of a problem with the simplification of his advocacy because he's quite an outspoken advocate, emphasising that his real life mission focuses on destigmatising mental health and creating a healthcare system rooted in compassion and human connection. So the thing I wanted to bring up about the movie, for those who've watched it, they will know, but if you haven't watched it, I'm going to give
I'm sorry.
I'm just going to give a spoiler alert. The film opens with Patch going into a psychiatric institution. You see the difference that he makes in that space and how inspired he is during that time working with other patients within the facility. Then he goes on, you get his story, going to medical school, the problems that he faces, the barriers that he comes up against with the professional doctors who think that his antics are silly and don't tie into the level of prestige that doctors should have. Mm-hmm. He really challenged that, and I think that's true in both the movie and the real world. I think he really pushed a lot of buttons. But once he starts the Gesundheit Institute in the film, there's a character that comes in who clearly has a mental illness, and that character gets treated at the clinic and he reaches out for some additional support. And Corinne, who is Robin Williams' love interest in the film goes to help him and she ends up being murdered. That was fake. I already told her about that. The real Patch Adams had a big problem with this because Corinne is not real. The psychiatric patient is not real. None of his patients were murdered by someone with a mental illness. And so here we have Hollywood, who has taken this incredible man's story, who is a massive advocate for treating people with mental health conditions as humans in a holistic way with kindness and humour. And they have added this aspect to dramatise the film that completely undoes everything that Patch Adams stands for. Stigma in mental health is massive. And it's a big reason why people who have experienced suicide or somebody who is supporting someone through suicidality, or even when someone loses somebody to a fatal suicide attempt, that they really struggle being able to access support in the real world around that because of this stigma that's attached. And we've been joking today about my shame and judgment towards Megan, which she knows is not real. But in the real world, that is a huge barrier to people. And Hollywood, not just in this film, has contributed to that. We tend to have a fascination with it. And you look at any true crime documentary, there'll be something about the perpetrator and what mental illness they've been diagnosed with. For me, when I was diagnosed with BPD, the only thing I knew about it was that Jeffrey Dahmer and
Catherine
Knight had that illness. That was the only thing I knew. So can you imagine the fear that I felt when I was like...
And probably your partner?
When we realised that I had been diagnosed with a disorder that serial killers have. Now, I've never murdered anyone.
No, I'm suddenly feeling a bit scared about being locked in this little room with you.
So I just wanted to introduce that idea of stigma and talk about it in the reality of the barriers that it puts in people's way. So I just wanted to add that it's such a huge part of it, but it is the exact thing that Don Ritchie and Patch Adams were able to let go of and just look at humans as humans without judgment, without shame-inducing behaviours. And when you see people for who they are and whatever battle they're going through, and I think we'd probably be hard-pressed to find a listener today who doesn't carry something in their life that they keep hidden from the outside world. This is the part of me that I don't want other people to know about or I feel shame around. And that's the same for people with suicidality, mental health issues. I just really wanted to highlight today the power in just seeing people for who they are. And I think that these two guys did a really great job of that. The other part that I wanted to mention was Robin Williams, who was just an extraordinary man himself. The world lost an extraordinary human to suicide. The fact that he played that role, and not just that role, but so many roles that brought people so much joy. And I remember the shock after his death and people posting things on social media and talking about how could somebody that brings so much joy to the world have so much pain, and how did we not know this? And he spent his life making us laugh. How could he possibly be, struggling on the inside? He's the perfect example of why we need to check in on our friends who seem okay, because they can be doing all of the things and ticking all of the boxes and making people laugh and bringing joy to others, and on the inside, they're struggling.
And what, perhaps for people who are not quite interpersonal and intrapersonal as you and are unaware of how to deal with that, what does checking in look like? What can you actually do?
Invite them for a cup of tea.
Like you said, it doesn't have to be a big gesture.
Doesn't.
Have a conversation.
Have a conversation.
I think this is very common for a lot of women, but I always joke with my husband, I'm telling you this because I need you to listen, not because I need you to solve it. And you don't have to solve those problems.
Nope, you don't have to solve the problems. You don't have to carry their pain. You don't have to fix their life. They, behind their external tough armor that they present to the world, are probably already all over that. They're probably trying to strategize and do all of the things. But if they can have someone meet them and go, wow, that must be really hard.
What if they're not? What if they're waking up every day and expecting things to be different, but they're not changing their behaviour?
Sometimes you need support before you can change the behaviour. Like if you are somebody who will use me as an example. For me, in the lead up to my suicide attempt, I just felt like I needed to keep doing the things that made me appear like I was a functioning human being. You know, going to work, taking care of your kids, making sure, you know, that they're going to the after school activities, all of those things that make you a successful person.
Like, air quotes.
Air quotes, yes, they were big air quotes. That make you seem like a successful person on the outside. That was the thing I felt like I needed. That was the mask I needed to hold up. Mm-hmm. I needed the outside world to have the impression that I had it all together. And when you are spending so much time doing that, it's often hard to focus on changing behaviours or even identify what the problem is. This is a difficult question because it is very person specific, and there can be a lot of mitigating factors. Like there might be someone who is literally just doing their best to get through every day, and then you might find other people who cannot accept that maybe some of their behaviours are part of the problem that's leading them into this difficult situation. So it's very hard to give a generalised answer as to how you do this, but I think it's really important to remind everyone that it's also not your job.
I think that's really important as somebody who has supported people through mental illnesses is, and I'm not a wordsmith like you, but the song that makes me cry every time I listen to it is Tim Minchin's I Can't Save You From Yourself.
Yeah.
It's not on you, and you can definitely build on that connection, but in terms of that action, you can't make somebody do something.
You can't. Keeping me safe is not your responsibility. It's mine. I can say that now because I'm on the other side and I've got the support and I've done the things and the work, and I've got to speak to other people and really understand on a broad sense that these situations look very different for everybody. But the one thing that rings true on the other side of this, when I get to watch the people who I've shared lived experience stories with, and we travel alongside each other, the one thing that I love most is watching those people succeed. And their journeys all look very different. Some have gone through professional routes, some have gone on holistic journeys, some people have just connected with a support network of friends and family. So it looks very different for all of the people, but there are the same successes in every one of those stories. And it is about support and saying, I am responsible and I am going to do the things that I need to do to get me to a better place where tomorrow is going to be a little bit easier than today. Because altogether it can seem quite daunting, But when you cut it down into those small pieces, we just want tomorrow to look a little bit better than today. And then a week on and a month on and a year on, you see people just doing amazing, inspiring things. If I can give any advice to someone who is experiencing mental health struggles or suicidality, there are things in our community and we don't hear enough about them. So things like community safe spaces, online safe spaces, peer support groups, where you will be welcomed by people with lived experience who are in there, and the sole purpose of those groups is to support each other. So even if you feel like you can't talk to your family or your friends or your colleagues, there are these places that are in existence and they're popping up in our communities. There's a safe space in Charlestown now, and it just takes a little bit of Googling. But if we don't have these conversations and we don't talk about these resources, then how are people supposed to know how to get them?
Yeah.
I did a lot of reflection last week about the time I went to my doctor and asked for help. And I didn't have the capacity to vocalise in the right way the kind of help that I was looking for. If I was able to do that, he could have provided me with a list of all of these great resources. I'm sure that they have them on file, but it's such a big thing to say to someone, I'm not coping right now.
Yeah.
And those things are available for family and partners as well.
Absolutely. When I was supporting somebody through a hard time, I went to a community group that supported partners who were going through difficult mental pathways. And for me, just realizing, I think it was just like I hit that zone of acceptance and just, I don't know, I'm not wording this very well. That was an epiphany moment when I realized that all of these people here sharing their stories as the supporters of people who were struggling with their mental health.
Yeah.
Changed my life.
I want to grab that part where you said, I'm not wording this very well. That's also something we need to give ourselves a bit of grace for, because you don't need to word it well to do the right thing.
So I can't cut that?
No.
Damn it.
You cannot cut that, and I knew that you would.
I would.
But I think that it becomes part of the rhetoric. Like, I have to have the right thing to say. I have to, going to that thing for you met a group of people who were all going through a similar experience. And it's profound. It really is, to know that you are not going through something that feels exceptionally lonely on your own.
We talk about the bad parts of social media all the time, but how before, when our community was tiny, it might have been hard to find somebody, but there is somebody in the world who wants to help you that can relate to how you are feeling right now.
Yeah. And it just takes a Google search, or if you find one organisation and you think it's not the right one for you, these guys they network with each other. So you could reach out, say if you find something that you think might be suitable for you, but it's not in your direct area, reach out to that group and say, can you direct me to somewhere that's similar to what you do here? They will be more than happy to help. A lot of these organisations are run by people with lived experience on a volunteer basis. They go and do this because they want to help people, and they are just a huge source of knowledge. Just before we wrap up, I want to remind everybody that there will be a link in the episode description that will take you to our website where you can access the show notes, and we will have a list of helpful numbers if you feel like you need to reach out to somebody if it's brought something up for you. But the other thing I want to say too, places like Lifeline, Black Dog, those types of organisations can link you to these peer support groups as well. And don't feel like if you're making a call to them, whether you're the person who is struggling yourself or whether you love somebody who is struggling, reach out to those services and ask, is there something in my community that can support me here? Is there an online group that you recommend, that could be helpful for me. You know, there's men's safe spaces, there's women's safe spaces. Like there really is a ton of resources out there, and sometimes just dipping your toe in the water, you don't have to speak. You can just go along, leave your camera off and listen to what the other people say.
You've got nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose. And I suppose that's the message that I just want to leave listeners with today. I wanted to talk about how small things make a difference, and there is support out there if you would like it. Finding home, like in today's opening monologue, at the start of the episode and at the beginning of Patch Adams, isn't just about a place. It's about a feeling. It's about a space and people where you feel seen, you feel cared for. And Patch Adams showed us that human connection, compassion, and even a little humour can create that space. A place where someone's stormy mind can find shelter, even just for a moment. The death of Robin Williams shocked the world. How could someone who brought us so much joy and laughter also carry so much pain? And it's a reminder of what's at stake. The world lost an irreplaceable gift. But it's not only famous faces that we risk losing. Every day, countless people quietly struggle, their gifts and potential hidden by stigma, isolation, and fear. Their lives, too, deeply matter. Suicide prevention is not the responsibility of a single person, a doctor, or a hero. It's about all of us. It's about noticing, asking, listening, and being present. Compassion and connection can save lives, sometimes in ways that we never truly see. Given today is World Suicide Prevention Day, I encourage you to check in on the people around you. Be present, show that you care. It may feel small, but if you're going to take anything from today's episode, let it be this. Small acts of humanity can ripple outwards in ways that change and save lives.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of If These Trees Could Talk. If you would like to access more about the places or information included in today's topic, please visit our website ifthesetreescouldtalk.com.au. If you would like to follow us on our adventures, check us out on Facebook or Insta. Our creative writer is Shannon Walters, and our podcast is produced at Bellevue Studio in the Hunter Valley with audio production by Megan Anderson. We love to hear your feedback, so please rate and review, and if you would like to hear more, please subscribe. We look forward to you joining us for our next adventure.